Just beforehand, I caught up with one of the gurus, Laurel Papworth, named this year by Forbes magazine in the top 50 social media influencers globally. Her clients have included the Singapore government, Westpac, Sony and Australian governments. She's the CEO of the Community Crew, managing massive gaming and online communities.
Profile at work, or if you collaborate with somebody in another department, you get, hey, you're a great networker badge coming up on your internal profile. Doesn't that sound like fun?
Probably the biggest shift that's happening in social media is Google+. And not a lot of people realise that Google+ in 12 months ago changed SEO to SMO.
The very first economies were not barter economies, they were gift economies. And a gift economy is when everybody does chores together, like a family. You know those happy smiling faces of children when you ask them to tidy their room? That's the gift economy.
She's seen how networking tools like Facebook and Twitter empower older Australians and is now on a mission to urge more to tell their stories online.
What do people know about your life? What do they know? What will they know in 10 years about your life?
I'm going to be speaking at Oracle's Cloud World on March the 13th about how to deal with negative criticism in your online communities, Facebook pages and social media sites. I'd really like to see you there.
Well, that's interesting. I've got a free service. I've also got a choice of one where I pay to put the video up. But then another service called Meta Cafe pays you to put videos up. If you put a video up on Meta Cafe and you get 10,000 hits, you get paid a couple of dollars.
People have said things on Twitter and it's been, you know, the consequences have meant that they've been...
One of the problems with being an authentic human being is we have to live our ethics. And I think we often talk about personal brand and corporate brands. We don't really fully understand what it means. But there's a lot about branding, personal brand and corporate brands that's aspirational. This is the person I want to present to my social network.
Please sit down if you are not on RSVP.
Don't put it on social media and things like that.
Do we need an Ita Buttrose of social media? I have some questions around etiquette because society normalises itself and says what its behaviours are appropriate or not. So do risk analysis across the board. How are you going to deal with negative criticism? How are you going to monetize social media? Really look at what your options are and say, yes, we can do this today. We'll do that one tomorrow. That one I'm not sure about, maybe next year.
You know, you might pick up the phone and do tequila texting in the middle of the night to someone inappropriately or ringing them up and hanging up.
Is that the official term, tequila texting?
Tequila texting. I've never heard.
Terrific. I love it. Anyway, carry on, sorry.
It's that lack of control. I mean, I think that's what Az is talking about.
If you're going to be talking to people under the age of, 25 or working with them in a community, it's a really good idea to give them synchronous instant messaging tools. And you'd be amazed at how many social networks miss this very basic feature.
On social media networks, Facebook and Twitter. Laurel Papworth is a social media consultant.
The first thing that happened was that traditional media, newspapers and radio, the information was released on there first.
So the first thing that I look at when I'm building an online community is the strategy, and the strategy to me is all around the questions. And a strategy, when I sit down and I work with clients and I work with some of the big banks, information about the forthcoming movie on the traditional media and to the big sites, the community would have turned against us. So we went directly into the communities that we had already sourced and seeded information to before. So there can be a bit of a balance here where they start to feel like they own the property.
So this is a generation that's coming through that for the first time in human history, our lives don't unravel when we pass away. We now, from this point on, are co-creating the human narrative. We're co-creating the human story forevermore.
So rather than signing up each individual person, I'm better off figuring out who is connected to groups of these people and wining and dining them in a way so that I do blogger relations and Twitterati relations and make sure I build up strong connections with each influencer in each network.
Again, how many people here would lend me $100,000? See me later, you mug. How many people here would lend me 1,000? with interest, hands right up. Brilliant. More this year. See, trust and reputation is built over time. How many people here would lend me $1? Excellent. Thank you. Hands right up. So if I need $100,000, it's the Kickstarter model. I find 100,000 people willing to put up $1.
And by social media specialist Laurel Papworth, talking today about internet trolls. Laurel, why do you think we need trolls in our online communities?
I think first of all we have to define trolls, and it's not just people who disagree with us in a way that we don't like.
Customers that actually come through your door would actually be the customers that you're looking for.
We often talk about market segmentation in marketing in Australia, but we don't actually do it very well. Our products and services should not be all things to all people. We should be very clear we're targeted to this group, and they will now take our products and services and talk about them to their network.
Hostage to the victors. The people who can write the history are those that won it. Our stories will never again be forgotten, unwritten or unscribed. So you see, it's not your content, it's our content. Our stories. We didn't give you the human story, we loaned it to you. And now we're going to take it back.
Compared to what we have in Australia, which can be quite interesting and quite vicious in some senses, I didn't see anything of that nature there. So I do think it's quite an overreaction on the part of the council.
And could it backfire and actually do the council some damage in taking this action?
Absolutely. One of the things that may happen is that reasonable people will now remove themselves from the site.
Between the marketing department and the PR department, who should control social media?
Or is it customer service? I would say at this point in time we're really looking at most companies shifting their Twitter accounts out of marketing and PR and pushing it into customer service.
The future of children that prefer friendship online than they do one-on-one with the human interaction.
That's a really good question, David. I would say no.
You seem shocked that I came up with one.
It is easier to keep in contact with people who are not people you don't see every day on these sites.
Now, an interesting take on how business might be done in the future.
I believe in a new economy. I believe in a new way of working together, a new way of valuing each other and what we do online and offline. I call this a new social currency.
Now and in the future, social networking websites will know everything about us, not just our personal details, but a detailed personal history. That could concern some people, but I see a positive future.
So you want a bank loan? Well, thank goodness there's no bank managers in the future. You can go directly to your social network and they will understand you because they've seen everything you've contributed online and offline for the last number of years. They'll assign you a value and decide whether they're going to give you a loan or not. It could be 300 people are willing to contribute to your home loan, or it could be 3 million, depending on how popular you are. So what are you worth? Well, your social network will decide.